Hello, you are listening to the C Squared podcast with Holly and Curtis, and today we are joined by Jon from Conan. So we're going to talk all stuff doom metal. It's going to be wonderful. So thank you, Jon, very much for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so I want to start off the questions here. I know Holly didn't put this in here, but we should always do like a brief introduction of who you are, the nutshell version if possible. I know you've been on the podcast before with me and Corey, but just for anybody who hasn't heard in the past.
Okay, well, my name's Jon. I play guitar and try to sing in the UK and Ireland-based heavy metal band Conan.
Very succinct. Very succinct.
Yep.
I like it.
There we go.
Cool. So I'll start with the questions then. So you recently released a new album I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Might have been last month at this rate. I don't even
19th
know.
of August. 19th of August.
It's been that long. Holy shit. Time's flying, isn't it?
Cool. Yeah, it's crazy.
So what's the response been like so far since you released it?
It's been great. It's been really good. It's kind of been as we expected, to be honest with you, without being big-headed or anything. I know, like, we knew we had a good album, honestly, when we were writing it, and when we got on the studio towards the end of last year, we knew that at least it would sound kind of fresh and not like groundbreakingly new, but we knew there was enough in there to attract newer fans and also satisfy the ones that we have. I always have this weird thing with bands, like bands that I'm a fan of. When I discover them, I tend not to like the albums that they write after the point at which I discover them.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that with so many of my favorite bands, like Anthrax, for example. I discovered them around about when their latest album was Resistance to Time, and then everything after that I've struggled to get into. Honestly, it didn't help that they changed vocalist to John Bush or whatever, but I've had a similar thing with lots of bands that I'm into now. So we always have that in mind when we're writing our own albums. I always kind of, like, I don't know, try and make sure that we don't stray too far from what we're good at, but we diversify a little bit so that there's enough in there for current fans not to get fed up because we've changed too much. And there's enough stuff in there for people who maybe weren't into us on our last album might like us on this new album.
Yeah.
And by listening to feedback, putting in there whatever feels natural. And yeah, I think because of that, we've produced delivered an album which has been quite popular generally. We've not really read any bad reviews apart from the Sleeping Shaman in England. So shame on them.
They didn't like it.
They didn't like it. I think he gave it like 1 or 2 out of 10 or something like that. It was one of the first. It was one of the first reviews as well. And do you know what? I'm really good friends with Lee, who does or did own that particular website. And all I will say is bring back Adam Stone, because his reviews were excellent. So shame on the Sleeping Shaman. How dare they not like us? Completely against all of the unwritten rules of doom metal.
You're going to get us in trouble now, but that's fine. Whatever. I'm
only joking, of course.
I
know. Entitled to their opinion, even though they were wrong.
Well, out of curiosity, though, just before Holly asks her next question, everything else was pretty much positive, other than just the one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there even in that review there was cool stuff, and I enjoy reading them, whether they're good or bad. And it's good to get negative feedback, because how do you grow if you don't chop off a few leaves here and there? So that kind of thing doesn't bother me. Yeah, the reviews have been brilliant. So we're really happy.
I'm kind of going up barking up another tree, Holly. Forgive me. I know you get the next question, but he keeps saying stuff that makes me curious.
I'll have to talk less.
So I'm assuming, maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. You guys have had other negative reviews in the past, correct?
No, never had a bad review. That's why we're one of the biggest heavy metal bands on earth, because we never get bad reviews.
Fair. Yeah, you guys are like Metallica, of course. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
obviously. But what I was going to ask you, in all seriousness, is how do you deal with negativity when someone comes up to you with negativity about Conan? They're like, "This fucking sucks," or "It's not their thing." Like, how do you deal with that as the main guy in the band?
Well, just by saying, well, thanks anyway. Never mind.
Fair.
We're still heading to. I'm still playing in Sweden at the weekend. I'm still heading to Canada at the end of the month.
Yeah.
What are you gonna? What are you doing next weekend? So that kind of thing just doesn't bother me. I'm from Liverpool, so I'm like, I love a fight. So if anyone
Love
says
you,
anything
John.
like that, anyone says anything like that to me, I'm just like, okay, fine, no problem. But honestly, on a serious note, if we get negative feedback, it's like it's part and parcel of being. We're put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
People either like it or they don't. So just to be, I don't know, just be level-headed about it. I mean, we don't like throw a party every time there's a good review.
Fair.
At the same time, we don't kick the cat when there's a bad review. We just all reviews are cool. I read them all. It fascinates me that other people have taken the time to review the album. So whether the review says it's good or bad, I appreciate it and I respect their opinion, and that including the guy from the Sleeping Shaman.
I think this is the first time I've ever seen you call anybody out, John. That's why I was kind of surprised when you said that.
No,
So
I'm hardly Kurt Cobain and Francis Farmer will have a revenge on Seattle. It's not quite like that. No, it's all good. They know that we love them because they've been very supportive of us all along. So they just call this, you can call this a bit of banter.
fair enough. Holly, I'm going to let you ask your question now since I've hogged it for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm quite interested to ask you about the writing process, particularly sort of the inspiration behind the tracks on this album. Because I was having a look around at some articles and news articles about the album, and I found some comments sort of saying that the album was a bit inspired by, the global events of this year and last year. So I was wondering, did you find that maybe cathartic in some ways, writing about that sort of thing, or was it maybe hard to write about because you're living through it at the same time?
The music itself. So forget the lyrics for a moment. The music itself was written. We started writing it towards the end of 2019. That's when we first went in the studio together to work on tracks, and we had some demos from that period. We were on tour with the Cavalier Conspiracy, doing their Arise Beneath the Remains tour. So we were properly like in the mood to write some metal. So we went to Fowl Studio on our day off, and we recorded some demos. And a lot of those riffs went on to the album. But in amongst all of that, obviously, like you say, the events of the last couple of years or more have sort of not made the album sound a particular way, I don't think, because it kind of follows the established path of other albums for us. Apart from maybe we focused on trying to write longer songs generally, because that just felt like the right thing to do for reasons that I can't really put into words. It just instinctively wanted to write longer songs. So yeah, I mean, it took shape musically over the last couple of years, but really the bulk of the musical work kind of came together towards the end of last year, October, November, when we got into the studio after a frustrating period of Johnny, our drummer's in Ireland, so he wasn't able to get over here. So we had this like trying to write online. Didn't work really too well, but did a few good things. So when we got in the studio together and started doing those first songs that we'd sort of half written remotely, getting in the same room and writing, they came together super fast. So being apart and brewing these songs over the course of 2 years, I think kind of made them sound a bit more lived in than maybe Existential Void Guardians songs are, because that album was written like on the fly, came home from tour. Johnny had literally just joined the band. We wrote the album and recorded it within a couple of weeks. But this album, like I say, it's brewed over a long period of time. When it came to the lyrics, I had a few lines here and there, like I always do on my phone. I just wrote some stuff down. I like going on the rhythm. There must be a scientific word for this, but the rhythm of the syllables in a sentence is always something I've been kind of obsessed with. Like how they fit around a drum beat or a riff is something that in my brain, something that I'm always conscious of. Even when I'm talking, there's sometimes a drum beat behind what I'm saying. I'm like, oh my God, am I talking like, am I rapping here or am I just talking? And it's kind of like a weird like existence for me because I'm often like trying not to talk to a specific drum beat that's on my head. Maybe I've got some sort of condition, I don't know, but that is how I live my life. But when the lyrics started to come together, I remember I was sat exactly where I am now, and it was the evening before we recorded the vocals. We had a few bits and bobs, and I remember that it was just as Russia were invading Ukraine, and I was on my computer just checking out what was going on online, and the lyrics from most of the songs just started. I wrote them sort of over the next few hours while I was doing that. It wasn't my intention to write them with that in mind, but it definitely crept in there, and because that's what I was doing when I was writing the lyrics, you know, and I was, I think because of that, the lyrics, even though they're not about the war, like I've said before to other people, they're not about that. We're not Rage Against the Machine. We're not going to start writing about that kind of thing. But nevertheless, the sort of like feeling of sort of anger, frustration, fear, hope, they all came through in the lyrics. So I just imagined how those people are directly involved in that war might feel, and that sort of made me write the lyrics in a certain way. So yeah, the lyrics for sure were influenced by what's going on in Ukraine specifically, even though none of the songs are about it. I wouldn't want to sit here and try and make out like we've written, you know, this is dedicated to the people of Kherson or whatever. You know, it's not our place to do that, with all due respect. So yeah, I think we've written like a heavy Conan album, which on a personal level to me was very cathartic, like you say, because it was sort of like I don't really enjoy the process of writing an album. I prefer I like it all the way up. Sorry, I like it from the point at which we get to record, and when we've done the drums and the structure's all set and everything's done, I can relax a bit more then because I know that it's kind of the foundations are down. And then Chris, then with him being a producer, sort of, we just do the brickwork together and build the album, you know. So yeah, that's kind of a long one, wasn't it? But yeah, it definitely cathartic. Definitely cathartic. Not that I was sitting here pulling my hair out or anything, but yeah, it was good to get the album finally down and recorded because it's sort of been sat on my shoulders for, you know, almost over 2 years. So for that reason alone, it was a huge relief to get it written, you know.
Did you?
And actually,
sorry, John, go ahead.
I love the lyrics. I'm really proud of. They came together so fast, and they've got like a real drive to them. There's something about the lyrics that I just think are my favorite lyrics on any of the album up to now. And yeah, some of my most favorite lines are on the album. And I just love singing, you know, Righteous Alliance, set forth on a whisper of death, eyes glazed as they pass the test. You know, all of these kind of things just like still give me goosebumps now when I imagine what that might mean to some people when they listen to it. Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Oops, I'm muted. So John, I just had a quick follow-up just about that. So unless I'm mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I probably am. You started writing the album back in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we had a conversation about this at one point. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, but you said that the lyrics were written with the war in mind and with other circumstances in mind. Did you have lyrics already at that point in time, like 2019, and it changed significantly, or no? Just out of curiosity. Okay.
No, I didn't. I wouldn't go as far as to say I had lyrics written then. Although
Okay.
I always carry around on my phone's notepad just a few lines here and there that kind of come to me when I'm, you know, absentmindedly doing things.
Cool.
So we yeah, I had a few lines, but honestly, the lyrics were, there was no way I was ready for the studio up until that. Left it to the very last minute, to be honest. And I don't normally do that, but it was it just fell out. It just came out that way, and all of a sudden the lyrics came out all in one go. kind of
Cool.
amazed.
So there wasn't like a significant change between 2019 or whatever year it was to 2022.
No, it's
Okay.
not. No, it's not like we had lyrics and then changed them for any reason. They just had a few lines. That was all.
Okay, cool. I was just curious on that. Now I also had one more slight follow-up, which is again kind of off what Holly had written for the questions. And again, so, Holly, I'm sorry. You guys tour with some bands that don't really seem to fit your genre, like Cavalera Conspiracy, Black Label Society. I don't really think is part of your genre. Maybe I'm mistaken in that.
Well, they are the Doom crew after all, so I guess we fit in there with them somehow.
I don't know. I don't think of them, but anyways. So how does that work with you guys picking? Well, how does it work? How you guys figure out who you're going to tour with them? Because these are some off-brand bands. So just curious how that works.
Well, I mean, if we're going to tour with a band who in most people's opinion would be bigger than us, it makes sense for us to try and diversify a little bit.
True.
True. You know, and try and play to a crowd that isn't like, you know, a regular doom metal crowd, because that is a thing for sure. So playing to Cavalera Conspiracy's crowd was great. There were lots of Conan shirts in the crowd, but then there were lots of Sepultura shirts in the crowd, and that's great because I'm a massive Sepultura fan.
I know.
But you don't normally get Sepultura fans at our shows.
Yeah.
So to go and play to them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like almost like completing the circle sort of thing. And so when we got offered that tour, I'm friends with Gloria, Max's wife, and the manager for Soulfly, Cavalera Conspiracy, all of Max's projects, Go Ahead and Die, Nail Bomb.
Yeah.
And when she offered us that tour, I was like, it was an absolute no-brainer. I would have gone out there with a different drummer and bassist if the other lads weren't available. Fortunately, they were. So it was just a tour that we had to do. And in respect to Black Label Society, that was a tour that we got offered through their manager Blasco, through our booking agent over in America, Nathan. And again, it was a tour that we just couldn't turn down. It was like, I mean, financially, it was not as what we would normally get. We got like a small fee instead of our own headlining fee, but it was worth it. Just A, for the experience, and B, for the exposure.
Yeah.
Because while we were on that tour, I was taken out to dinner by the A&R guy from Century Media. I had an email off the top man in Relapse.
Nice.
Wanting to know if we were available, and we weren't then, but we are now. So we'll see what happens with that. And that was like just a cool time to be on tour. I mean, that tour I've done one of the most rock and roll things ever. I had to fly home from my sister's wedding from Toronto, flew back to LA like the next day, and then I rented a Dodge Challenger, drove through the Mojave Desert up to Reno, Nevada, and got a speeding ticket doing 85 and a 55.
Amazing.
So yeah, so I had the whole like, am I going to be shot by a policeman thing as well. That was kind of interesting.
Nice.
And got to Reno, met Johnny, had some Vietnamese food, had some sleep. Next morning, checked out like priceless guitars in the underground cellar private collection of this music shop owner who just, when we were browsing this regular music shop, he said, do you want to see the really interesting stuff? He took us downstairs to the museum with guitars worth like 5 figures, crazy. And then we went and shot some guns. So
nice.
that tour was great. I did the last 4 dates of that tour in a Dodge Challenger V8 Emmy, which was ridiculously cool.
That's awesome.
And so things like that were just make those kind of tours sort of hard to turn down, because something interesting or cool or different's going to happen. I bet you will end up, if we did it, I'm sure at some point we'll go out with some headliner band who are a complete bummer to be around. I hope that never happens, but I do hear that where you're treated like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But on those 2 tours, it was brilliant. Really the lovely people. Awesome. And we're really proud that we got to do it. So if we never get to tour with any bigger metal bands again, I'll be happy. But who knows what the future will bring.
Next month, you're opening for Metallica. We'll find out. Well, we'll be next month, but next year.
You'll find out for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure I'll put something on Facebook about that.
I'm opening for Metallica. No
Yeah.
big deal.
No.
So Holly, we got about 6 minutes left with Jon. What do we want to ask him? That what is a question you want to ask him at least before we wrap up?
I guess, I mean, I'm just curious about the video for Levitation Hoax, just because, I mean, I think it's a cool video, and I'm just wondering what, like, if there is a meaning behind it. Maybe there isn't a meaning behind it. Maybe it's just a cool video. But yeah, I was just sort of wondering why you chose to have, like, women musicians, like, performing the song.
The first time I saw it, I was like, Jon looks different today.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's very pretty.
Oh, thanks very much. What do you mean, today or on the video?
On the video, I mean.
Oh, sorry. Okay, fine. I thought you meant today. Well, I appreciate that anyway. But now that the video's out, I can of course lie and say it was a statement about sexual equality in the music industry. But I'm not going to say that, even though that is a serious issue, which I wouldn't make light of. But in direct response to your question, we weren't able to attend. The person who we wanted to do the video is based in Finland, a chap called Esa, and he's been our booking agent in Finland since the first time we went over there, and he runs the what's the festival called? Blow Up That Gramophone Festival in Helsinki, which we're playing on the 14th of October. So when we were thinking about an idea, I knew what I wanted the video to be. I wanted it to be us on stage, but not us, playing to a crowd, and at some point during the set, they all die. And that's what I basically wanted. So that went from that, and then we thought, well, who do we get to play us? And I thought, well, if we can do videos of ourselves sort of grimacing and shouting and just being like menacing, we could have kids play on stage, like actual children playing guitar, bass, and drums, singing the song, and have the crowd sort of going a bit crazy, a bit like the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit. And that became not a non-starter for obvious reasons. And Essa suggested that we have three other musicians who happen to be women play us on this video. So I thought, yeah, it's a great idea. And three very, very talented musicians and lovely people. And we've gotten to know them as friends now after the video. And we're going to see them in October. So we're really excited about that. So the video really wasn't deliberate, not trying to make any statement, even though sexual equality in music is a very serious issue. We weren't trying to address that with the video, in all honesty. But we hopefully, by having three women play the parts of three men, maybe that might contribute to that debate in some way, in a constructive way, which would be awesome. But it wasn't our intention. It was kind of an accident. But we think the video is awesome, and yeah, we're very grateful to them for stepping in.
Cool. So as the final question, Jon, is there anything you would like to say that we might not? Oh, I forgot. We were going to ask about the tour. We're going to ask about the tour first. So you have
We've got
shows.
time. You can go over. I don't mind. You know, I'm not in that way bothered.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the tour for next month for a brief moment. So can you go over the tour, like anything about the tour that you're allowed to talk about? I don't know what we're allowed to talk about. So yeah,
and anything that's announced now. So
cool.
we land on the 26th of October. October. And the first show's in Montreal.
Okay.
And then I think we're doing like 8 or 9 shows maybe, and we end up in Calgary, and then we fly home from Calgary on the Sunday. So yeah, that's it basically. It's only like 9 or 10 shows, but we just wanted to get some get over to either the USA or Canada before the end of the year, because they're both places that we enjoy touring. And honestly, it's been that long since I've eaten poutine that it made it an essential trip. Because it's good winter food, isn't it?
I'm on a diet now, so I can't eat poutine, unfortunately. But I agree. I
I'll eat
do agree.
yours.
I do
I'll eat
agree.
yours.
You could eat mine. That's totally fine.
Thank
But I
you.
do agree. I was going to ask you though, why aren't you guys going through the US? Is that just time considerations or what?
We couldn't get the visa in time, but we do have plans. We are working on some dates, and we got some holds at the moment. So there are plans afoot for that. We need to probably going to get our US visa paid for and boxed off when we get home from Canada.
So does that mean, because I would imagine you would then be doing more Canadian dates once you do the US tour just for financial reasons, or would I be mistaken in thinking that?
Possibly, I don't know yet. We
Good.
depends what the demand is, of course.
Fair.
We're not going to Vancouver on this tour, so it's reasonable to suggest that we might go on it when we come over in next year.
Yep.
To the USA, because it's not far from Seattle.
Cool.
So yeah, there are plans. There are plans underway. The Canada tour's all sorted. Just going to get the flight in the next day or two, and then the US tour, like I said, is in the works.
So, but last question, or I keep saying last question, but we'll see. What's your favorite What's your favorite Canadian place to play, or sorry, city to play, and which one is your least favorite to play?
Okay, I'm not going to answer the second question because you're allowed guns over there, or at least
no, we aren't.
Knives.
No, we aren't. Knives.
Knives. Okay, I'm not really confident about defending myself against a big Canadian person with a knife. So
Jesus
I won't answer the last question. Okay. But I say the biggest pit we've ever had was in Montreal, and we've only played Montreal once.
Yeah,
and it was at this place. I think it was called the Crypt or something like that. I don't remember. It was like a red sort of coloured venue. We played there with Dope Throne.
Oh, nice.
And there's a video on, or there was on YouTube, was playing Back in the Swamp or something, and it was just like insane. So that I'm going to say that's my favorite ever place to play, because that's the place where we've had the most memorable pit so far.
Fair. And then what about the rest of the world? Where other than Montreal would be your favorite spot in the world to play?
So it's hard because we've been around the block a few times.
I know you've probably been almost everywhere, I would imagine.
A few highlights. Playing it, believe it or not. Well, I'll take away that last sentence because it doesn't make sense to say believe it or not. But Moscow, we played in St. Petersburg in 2018, I think. And we flew there on our way back from a tour in New Zealand and Australia. And I had an umbilical hernia at the time, so I had my belly, but I had my bowels held in by gaffer tape and a neoprene strap. I had quite a long hernia around my navel.
That does not sound comfortable.
It wasn't. No, singing was weird because it kept popping out. So that's why I had this. That's why I had to stuff it back in all the time.
I don't know how you did that, anyways.
Yeah, it was horrible. It kept popping out, and like it looked like an outie.
Oh no!
And then I'd have to push it back in again, and then it became normal. But as soon as I put any pressure on my diaphragm, it would pop out again. It wasn't a good sensation.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but that Moscow was awesome because culturally it was a very new place for us. Never seen anything like it. Come off stage, and there was just a huge line of people who wanted to shake our hands and get photographs, and it was like, wow. Because I bet you they all weren't Conan fans, but they must have just been a fan of an overseas band coming to see them.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the way in which maybe there's kind of repression over there in some way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the place politically, but nevertheless, they seem very, very happy for us to be there. So that show was awesome. We played in Japan same year. The last show on that tour was particularly memorable. They were all memorable, but the last show of that tour was memorable because we played in Earth Dome in Tokyo, which hadn't been sold out for 10 years. And we sold that venue out, and it was just like stage diver after stage diver after stage diver.
Nice.
That was insane. Just super cool.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm not going to mention America. Everyone knows how much I love America and Canada. So I'm not even going to go there because I might start crying. But yeah, I'd say those two for the novelty factor, and also the fact that the shows were just completely insanely mad.
Nice.
Tokyo and Moscow.
Nice. So which country that you have not been to would you like Conan to conquer next?
I'd like to go to Mexico. So I know that they love metal over there, and we have had some approaches from Mexico.
You've never been to Mexico?
Never been to Mexico. We played in Brazil.
Wow. Yeah, I knew that. That's why I figured you guys had been to Mexico. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, never been. No, we've had offers. We've played in San, what the hell is it called? No, it's not San Jose.
San Diego?
No, it's like right on the border.
I
San
don't know.
something.
I thought it was San Diego, but my American geography is horrible. So
Yeah. No, we've been to San Diego a couple of times.
yeah.
San
Juan? I don't know.
No, it wasn't. I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, I can't.
But anyway, yeah, we've played near Mexico. We've never actually been to it. So, but I know that it's a cool scene there, and we definitely would like to go there. Hopefully, next year.
Cool. All right, John, we're going to wrap it up because we're now at the 40-minute mark almost. And so thank you again for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you back again at some point. I mean, you're already a repeat guest. Maybe next time we'll talk about more about touring or something like that, but we'll figure it out.
Yep. CNGen, we should talk about that next time. That'll be a good one for you.
About which one?
CNGen.
Hey,
like software platform that we alluded to.
I know. I forgot about that, but that would be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Next week we find out if we've been awarded a grant of £75,000 by the local government here, which is being match funded by a private sector investor who is also going to give us 75 grand. So if that all happens, we'll be all up and running by the end of March, and then we'll definitely have something to talk about then.
Nice. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the podcast. Thank you again, John, and listen and join us next time on the next episode. And that's it.